Hello, everyone. This webinar will be talking about the ACORNS Phase 2 2018-2019 application. We'll be reviewing the application document and discussing what needs to be filled out for each of the questions. So you'll start with contact information. This is where you'll insert the tribe or the tribal organization that is applying, the contact information for them, for your organization, what are the tribes that you represent, and the name of the CEO, chairperson, or health officer, or tribal health director, if applicable. Under the official contact, this is the person who will be signing off on reports and signing the subcontract, the person who is an authorized signature. Under the project lead, please provide the name and contact information for the person who will be carrying out the project activities. If there is an additional person, please feel free to insert two people here if there's multiple people carrying out project activities. Under the areas of focus, this is where you'll select the outcome area or areas that your proposed work plan will be focused on. You must choose at least one and can choose up to all of them. You will only select the ones in which your work plan your proposed work plan will be working towards. So if I do not have any activities in my work plan that increase the support for breastfeeding, I will not select that. But if I do have ones that will improve physical activity, I will select physical activity. In the next section of this first page is the amount of requested funding. Here you will just put the total amount of requested funding. Moving on to the second page. This is where the first part of the narrative begins. The first section is A, problem statement. The first question is, describe the top policy, systems, and environment priority areas identified through an existing community health assessment and community action plan. Based on the needs identified in the community health assessment, what change strategies will you implement to reduce and prevent chronic conditions? In order to be eligible for this funding, everybody needed to complete phase 1, which included conducting a community health assessment. You would take the results from that community health assessment, or if your organization has conducted a more recent health assessment, you may take the priority areas identified from that, and how will you be using those identified priority areas and designing a work plan that will address those needs. So using what you completed in phase 1, using the needs you identified, how will you address those needs with your proposed work plan for this project year? The next question is, what challenges or barriers do you anticipate in implementing change strategies? How will you use partnerships and community resources to maximize impact and overcome the anticipated challenges of your proposed project? So based off of your proposed project activities, what do you expect might be challenges or barriers to completing your project? And then how will you use and leverage partnerships and community resources in order to overcome those challenges and barriers and be able to complete for the proposed project activities? The next section is completing attachment A, phase 2, 2018-2019 work plan template. There will be a separate webinar going over that document, and we will discuss that then. The next section is C, organizational capacity. The first question says, please describe adequate staffing and experience to carry out the project. Include the system and methods for financial reporting, budget management, and administration. In this question, you will respond to how your organization and the staff at your organization have the appropriate experience and capacity to complete the project objectives, including managing the funds and making sure that there's the appropriate budget management and grant administration. The next section asks who will have day-to-day responsibility for key tasks such as leadership of the project, monitoring of the project's ongoing progress, preparation of reports, and program evaluation. In this section, please describe who will be the lead for most of the grant project activities, how will we make sure that those are going to be completed in the project year, and who will be responsible for each of those tasks. And how is that person have the experience in order to do so. The last section of organizational capacity says, describe your organization's experience addressing chronic disease-related issues including your use of existing and/or proposed partnerships outlined in your work plan. In this section, please talk about any experience, which can include being a previous ACORNS or CITE grantee, addressing chronic disease. If your organization has other experience addressing chronic disease-related issues, please feel free to describe that experience here and talk about how you will use your current partnerships or how you will use your proposed partnerships in order to help you address chronic disease and to complete your proposed project activities. Moving down to the next section, Section D, evaluation methods. There's two parts of this. You will complete Attachment B, Phase 2, 2018-2019 Outcomes and Evaluation Template. There will be another webinar describing how to complete this attachment, and we will go over that then. In addition to completing that, you will need to answer the following questions. The first one is, what are the key evaluation questions you will use to measure the performance and success of your project? How will your evaluation findings be used for continuous program improvement? So as a part of your project, you will need to determine what are your key evaluation questions. How do you want to know whether or not your program was successful and if you completed what you set out to do? And then based off of the findings from those evaluation questions, from the data that you've collected to answer those evaluation questions, how will you use that information in order to continue to improve your program so that it's more effective in chronic disease prevention, or that it's more effective in meeting the needs of your community and improving wellness? So that's what we'll be looking for in that question. The next question under evaluation says, describe what types of data sources and tools, including what type of data, example quantitative or qualitative, you will use to answer your key evaluation questions. How will you analyze this data to measure the effectiveness of your program? So in the Outcomes and Evaluation Attachment B template, you will be identifying those evaluation questions, and you will also be identifying the data sources and tools that you will use to answer those questions. So in this section, you will describe what are those data sources and tools. For example, surveys or federal data or tribal data or evaluations or comment cards or meeting notes and sign-in sheets or photos. Those are all types of data. Quantitative data, as a reminder, is number-based data, so counts, percentages, number of participants. Qualitative data is more of a narrative, so maybe it's the comments on a survey. That is a written narrative of data. It doesn't have a number or a count associated to it. So describing what sources and tools you're using, including what type of data you will be collecting from that. So if I did a survey that said, rate your, how much you liked this program, 1 to 10, and you would have quantitative data from that response, and then on a second question you had, please provide any additional feedback you want for program staff. That would also be quantitative data or qualitative data. So in that survey, you would be collecting both quantitative and qualitative data. So that's how we would like you to describe it. And then how will you be using the data and the information that you're collecting from those sources to answer your evaluation questions? And then also, how will you analyze the data to measure the effectiveness of your program? So who will be responsible for collecting, analyzing, and sort of reporting on the data that you're collecting of your program's effectiveness? And this is a really crucial part of a program because you put in a lot of time and energy into providing these services and these programs or making these changes. And without an evaluation, you don't know if it worked or how successful it was or if it was well received or if it made a difference. So this is an important piece to think about and consider as you're applying for and planning your project for this coming year. The next section of the application is the budget. In this, we expect that you Provide detail on salary, fringe benefits, supplies, travel, consultant and contractual, and other. In the RFP, there's a description of what each of those look like. In the narrative section, please provide a detailed narrative. So for example, under salary, please describe the % of the time for the staff that will be assigned to this, what their wages are and how that will be worked into the amount requested. Same with your fringe benefits. For supplies, please be as detailed as possible by trying to think ahead. What would be the supplies? What's the cost of 1 unit times how many units? And then that leading to your amount requested. Same with travel and consultant and contractual fees. Please be detailed in how you describe what the amount requested will be used for. You can use this budget template as a basic. If you want to provide more detail and use your own organization's budget template, you are also able to submit that in addition to filling this one out. The final piece of the application is having an authorized signature. So that will be your CEO, your chairperson, or tribal administrator, or executive director. Please have their name printed, their signature, their title, and the date signed. An application cannot be accepted unless this is signed by an authorized signature. So that is the full, that is the complete part of the part 1 of the ACORNS application. In addition to completing this application, you would complete the outcomes and evaluation template as well as the work plan template. I'm going to briefly go over to the CITE application, which is very similar to the ACORNS one. I'm just going to show it to you so you can see what's different. The biggest difference is that the logo is different on the top, and then some of the questions are specific to tobacco. So this is the CITE, California Indian Tobacco Education Program 2018-2019 application. Again, the first page, very similar. Tribe, tribal organization, contact information. You will fill those out as you would on the ACORNS. The first question is a little bit different than the ACORNS one. It says on problem statement, provide a short overview of commercial tobacco use and exposure in your community and how it relates to the burden of chronic disease. Based upon the burden identified, what strategies will you implement to reduce commercial tobacco-related chronic diseases in your community? So this one is because it's focused on commercial tobacco. You want to describe the use and exposure of commercial tobacco in your own community based off of a previous community health assessment, any data that you might have, and how that relates to chronic disease in your community, and then how will your proposed work plan objectives be addressing those needs or that burden. So that's what we'll be looking for in that question. Again, what challenges do you anticipate? You'll complete the work plan. The organizational capacity is the same. The evaluation questions and methods, you'll complete the attachment B, and you will ask the same questions for evaluation. You'll describe your data sources and tools for program evaluation. You'll complete a budget in the same way on the ACORNS application. And finally, you'll have an authorized signature. So this is completes the overview of both the ACORNS and the CITE 2018-2019 application page. This is part 1 of 3 pieces that would need to be submitted for a complete application for either program. Thanks.